Media. It's more than just entertainment. It's everything we use to share stories, ideas, and experiences. Films, TV, music, news, even internet videos like this one. It's how we remember, how we learn, how we connect. Since the dawn of time, humans have recorded their lives. On cave walls, on paper, on film, and now on servers in the cloud. Every song, every show, and every clip is a time capsule of who we were. Media has shaped wars, sparked revolutions, defined generations. A single photograph has changed public opinion. A single broadcast has changed history. But when media vanishes, a piece of humanity goes with it. And that's where things get unsettling. Because not all lost media is innocent. Sometimes it disappears under strange circumstances. Sometimes it was meant to be buried. And yet, people remember. They search. They dig. As if something inside them needs to know what really happened. So, the question becomes, what did we lose, and what were we never supposed to find? Lost media refers to any kind of recorded material, TV shows, movies, radio broadcasts, video games, and more, that once existed in some form, but is now missing, inaccessible, or presumed gone forever. Sometimes it's due to destruction, poor archiving, or censorship. Other times the reasons are far more mysterious. Lost media in and of itself is a never-ending rabbit hole that I could go on about for hours. But before we dig into the more obscure and lesser-known pieces of lost media, let's first talk about some infamous ones. The Clock Man, the man who came through the wall. There are childhood memories that fade with time, and others that burn themselves into your very soul. For decades, a fragment of a cartoon haunted the minds of those who saw it. A faceless man emerging from a clock, stretching across the bedroom wall, abducting a child into the night. It wasn't a dream, it was real, and they saw it on PBS. But when they tried to find proof, there was nothing. No tapes, no listings, just silence. Some said it never existed, and others whispered that it was pulled for being too frightening, that something about it was wrong. The search took years, and when it was finally found, it wasn't from PBS at all. It was an obscure Czech short film, dubbed into English and aired once, then buried. The real title, O Perdive Sally. But for many, it'll always be the Clock Man, the figure who stepped out of nightmares, through the wall, and into legend. Sad Satan, the game from the dark web. It appeared suddenly, a YouTube video from a user named Obscure Horror Corner. In it, he plays a game supposedly downloaded from the dark web. The screen flickers, narrow hallways stretch into blackness, and ghostly figures flash. Sounds of children crying fill the speakers. Real photos of cult leaders, crime victims, audio clips of screaming and reverse speech. No HUD, no instructions, just dread. He called it Sad Satan, and he wouldn't share the original file. Fans demanded it, but when others tried to recreate the game based on his footage, they couldn't match it. Some say he faked it, others say the real game was too dangerous, filled with illegal images, psychological triggers, or worse. But one thing's for certain, no one has ever found the true version, and it's still out there, waiting. A Day with Spongebob Squarepants, the movie no one found. In 2011, a listing appeared online for a bizarre-sounding SpongeBob movie. A Day with Spongebob Squarepants, the movie. A mockumentary about a real kid spending the day with a costume version of SpongeBob. Sounded harmless until people tried to find it. There were no trailers, no clips, and no DVDs. Just one mysterious Amazon placeholder, and nothing more. The company listed, Regal Films, had no real history. Some believed it was canceled before release, while others weren't so sure. A darker theory emerged that the film did exist, but Nickelodeon had erased it. That it depicted Spongebob in a depressing, unsettling light, lonely, forgotten, questioning his existence in a world that had moved on from him. Was it just viral marketing gone wrong, or is there a lost film still sitting in a warehouse, never meant to be seen? Either way, this movie became one of the strangest cases in the lost media world. Real, fake, or somewhere in between. All of these stories are extremely popular examples of lost media. These stories have been circulating the internet, being passed forum to forum for years. But what are some lesser known pieces of lost media? Late Night Horror, the series that terrified Britain into forgetting it ever existed. It's 1968, the summer of love. The Beatles are on top of the charts. But while flower power blooms and the world bathes in color TV for the first time, something horrific is being whispered through the airwaves of late-night British television. A series so unsettling, so unnervingly raw in its presentation of horror, it aired only once and then vanished. Gone. Forgotten by all but the few who claim to have seen it. Its name? Late Night Horror. A BBC anthology series that might have been a dream or a nightmare. Or perhaps something worse. A warning. A forbidden experiment in terror. Late night horror wasn't meant for the average viewer. This wasn't the sanitized creep of the Twilight Zone. This wasn't campfire ghost stories or slow-burning psychological unease. This was visceral. This was television bleeding through the screen. Each episode was an adaptation of horror literature curated to evoke one primal emotion: dread. From the very start, the opening credits, a woman's face twisted in agony, frozen in mid-scream, the show declared itself. You're not watching for fun, you're here to be disturbed. There were 6 episodes, 6 windows into a nightmare, all aired in black and white at the dead hour of night, and then they were just gone. Episode 1 was titled No Such Thing as a Vampire, a tale of suspicion, betrayal, and blood that isn't always human. Episode 2, William and Mary, a body horror descent based on a Roald Dahl story where death does not bring peace, only awareness. The Corpse Can't Play, a children's party gone terribly, irreparably wrong. The Bells of Hell, the clanging of final judgment on those already damned. The Triumph of Death, an art piece literally killing its viewer. And lastly, The Kiss of Blood, a vampire story too grotesque for prime time. Of these 6, only one remains. The rest lost to time, or worse, intentionally erased. The BBC, in its 1960s policy of tape wiping and re-recording, destroyed countless hours of television and late-night horror. It may have been deliberately buried, its contents deemed too disturbing, too profane, or too real. The only episode that survives is also the most disturbing. A children's party is visited by a pale, silent boy. He doesn't smile, and he doesn't blink. And when they play hide and seek, one of the children doesn't come back. There's a chilling, slow burn to this episode. You start by questioning the boy's intentions. Then you question the parents. Then you even question yourself. And by the end, you realize the party wasn't just for children. It was a ritual. The Corpse Can't Play was unearthed in the mid-2010s, a single 16mm film print surviving in a private collection. It was screened once, quietly, at the British Film Institute's Missing, Believed, and Wiped event. The audience didn't clap, and they didn't speak. Some didn't even sleep for days. This wasn't just old television, it was a curse rediscovered. The rediscovery of this lone episode sparked rumors, conspiracies, fan reconstructions of the missing 5, even claims of VHS bootlegs that would make you forget your own name. In 2022, the episode received a restored release, and with it came a new wave of nightmares. YouTube commenters claimed to hear whispers when they were watching it. One viewer reportedly seeing their television turn on by itself, playing static with a single word blinking faintly: play. Still, most of the original episodes are considered lost forever, but there are those who believe the tapes are still out there, rotting in someone's attic, hidden in a BBC vault, mislabeled under a different name, or maybe, just maybe, the episodes are lost because they were never meant to be found. Labyrinthe, the haunted game lost in the digital catacombs. It's the late 1990s. The internet is a whisper of what it will become. Japanese game developers are deep in experimentation, crafting surreal, atmospheric titles that exist on the bleeding edge between art and madness. One such game surfaces, released so quietly it barely echoes beyond the dim hallways of a niche PC store in Tokyo. The title? Labyrinthe, also known to Western fans years later as Zedus, Horror 3. But like a shadow slipping through your peripheral vision, the game vanishes. No widespread release, no marketing campaign, no digital footprints. For decades, it was spoken about like a ghost story, told at the edge of dial-up forums. Many doubted it existed at all, but it did exist. And what lurks inside of it is not just horror, it's the sensation of being forgotten by reality itself. Labyrinthe was the third and final entry in a mysterious trilogy of horror puzzle adventure games developed by Caravan Interactive. The first game, Zedus, Servant of Sheol, and its sequel, Zedus 2, Servant of Sheol, led the groundwork, immersing players in cryptic castles, gothic dreamscapes, and storylines studded with demons, dark alchemy, and arcane betrayal. But Labyrinthe was different. It was bolder, stranger, meaner. It drops the player into a disorientating castle maze with no direction, no compass, and no assurance of ever finding the way out. Every stone corridor loops into another. Every door leads to somewhere wrong. The architecture doesn't obey logic. It bends and shifts like the corridors of a fevered dream, or a descent into madness. And throughout it all, Zedus, a shape-shifting demon king and the series' reoccurring nightmare, lurks unseen, his influence corrupting everything. You are not just playing a game, you are walking the echoing halls of something cursed. Here's where the Labyrinthe legend grows darker. Unlike many obscure Japanese PC games, Labyrinthe was so limited in its release that even screenshots were scarce. No ROMs, no Let's Plays, no gameplay videos, nothing. By 2005, Labyrinthe was believed to be fabrication, an urban legend spun out of the collective of misremembering. Even hardcore fans of Japanese horror gaming communities couldn't find a single verifiable copy. And that's when the whispers started. Some said Labyrinthe was pulled from circulation due to disturbing content. Others claimed it contained anti-religious rituals that triggered censorship laws. The most unnerving rumor? That the game itself was haunted. Not in the supernatural sense, but in the psychological, that people who played it reported memory loss, feelings of intense paranoia, and even hallucinations. It wasn't until 2018, over 20 years after its release, that a miracle occurred. A massive 67GB dump of obscure Japanese PC games appeared on a hidden forum. Deep within it, like finding a skeleton buried in a forgotten catacomb, was the full ISO of Labyrinthe. The rediscovery sparked awe, fascination, and most importantly, dread, because now people could finally play it. Playing Labyrinthe is not a normal gaming experience, it is a descent. Rendered in now vintage, lo-fi visual, the game creates an atmosphere of total unease. There is no combat, only navigation, puzzles, and oppressive dread. The castle is nearly silent, except for ambient whispers, mechanical groans, and distant screams you never locate. The puzzles are cryptic, cruel, and punishing. Solve one wrong and you'll find yourself looping back to a place you already fled. The protagonist is nameless, faceless, you're not even sure if they're alive. Are you solving the puzzles to escape the castle, or is the castle solving you? Then there's Zetus. Not a monster who appears, but a presence you feel. Lights flicker as you say his name. Portraits blink when you look away. At one point, a message appears written in blood on the stone walls. The maze remembers you, even if you forget. Following its rediscovery, Labyrinthe ignited cult interest online. Horror streamers attempted playthroughs, many quitting out of frustration or sheer discomfort. Modders worked hours to translate it into English, unearthing disturbing narrative fragments, cryptic lore, and even cut content still embedded in the game's code. It now sits, partially restored, on the Internet Archive, free to download and free to play, but be warned, this is not just a game. This is a mirror held up to the darkest corners of your mind, and if you enter the labyrinth, it may not let you leave. The Intruder, the slasher film that never made it to midnight. It's 1975. The horror genre is on the edge of evolution. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has just shocked the world. Halloween is still 3 years away, but somewhere in America, behind locked studio doors and unmarked editing rooms, another film is being shot. Low budget, brutal, stark. A film about a man who isn't supposed to be there. No mask, no supernatural powers, just a knife and a smile. This film never made it to theaters. It was shelved before final cuts were even completed. Some say it was destroyed, and others claimed it was locked away to protect audiences from something too real. Its name? The Intruder, and it may be the missing link between psychological horror and the slasher genre that defined the decades that followed. Directed by Chris Robinson, a character actor turned filmmaker, The Intruder was intended as a gritty exploration of paranoia, isolation, and violence in the suburbs. Shot in washed-out 16mm, it followed a recently widowed woman who begins receiving strange phone calls, and then notices things are out of place in her home. A door left ajar, a picture frame turned backward, footsteps she didn't make. Then she sees him, a man never named, standing motionless at the edge of her hallway. No dialogue, no music, just him, watching, and then he's gone. The terror builds not through gore but through long, suffocating silences and moments of stark, unpredictable violence. It was less a movie and more of an invasion. But something about the film was too much, even for the 1970s. After a handful of private test screenings, The Intruder was pulled from distribution. Studio execs reportedly said it was unmarketable, but insiders whispered a different story. People walked out of the screening, said one assistant editor. Not because it was bad, but because it felt like watching a snuff film. Some believe the film blurred the line between fiction and reality. That one scene where the killer drags the woman's body through the hallway was just too convincing, too intimate. The screams sounded real. And then there was the ending. A single, unbroken shot of the killer sitting at the dining table, eating the woman's dinner. There's no credits, no music, just chewing for 6 minutes. It left audiences numb. After its shelving, the film seemingly vanished. No theatrical release, no VHS, and no home video rights. The production company folded shortly after, and the reels were presumed destroyed. But in 2009, a collector at a California estate claimed to have found a partial 35mm reel labeled The Intruder, rough cut, among old editing equipment. When he attempted to digitize it, his system crashed repeatedly. He eventually uploaded fragments to a now deleted horror forum. The footage? A silent woman pacing nervously by a window, a hallway slowly brightening as footsteps approach, a man's hand gripping the edge of a kitchen door. No sound, no music, just image and dread. Before the user could upload more, their account was deleted and their post wiped. They never logged in again. What makes the Intruder legendary isn't just its disappearance, it's the way it made people feel. The suffocating realism, the voyeuristic camera work, the notion that the killer isn't a monster, he's just a person. The kind of person who might already be in your house, waiting, watching, knowing you'll never hear him until it's too late. There is no score, there are no rules, and no one comes to save you. Because the Intruder didn't come for horror tropes, he came for you. Was the film buried because of its disturbing content? Did the director intend for it to be found decades later, or is there a reason the story refuses to stay buried? Some say Robinson continued to work under different aliases, others claimed he vanished completely. One urban legend even suggests he became obsessed with watching women in their homes, reenacting scenes from his own lost film. But no matter what the truth is, the Intruder has become part of horror folklore, a film that maybe never should have been made, a killer who never needed a mask, and a story that asks one terrifying question: what if the scariest horror movie was real? And lastly, this piece of lost media was finally unraveled last year in 2024, and it's definitely a lot more well known than the last few we discussed. But I wanted to add it to show we are still constantly uncovering pieces of lost media all of the time. Ulterior Motives, the lost song that haunted the internet. It's 2021. You're browsing an obscure song identification forum when you stumble upon a 17-second clip. The audio is grainy, the vocals ethereal, the melody hauntingly familiar. A user named Carl92 has posted it, seeking help to identify the track. The lyrics are barely discernible, but one line stands out. Everyone knows that. The song is dubbed Everyone Knows That by the online community. No one knows its origin, its artist, or even its purpose. It becomes an enigma, a digital ghost haunting the corridors of the internet. The snippet spreads like wildfire across forums, subreddits, and social media platforms. Amateur sleuths and music enthusiasts embark on a relentless quest to uncover the song's identity. Theories abound. A forgotten 80s synth pop track? A commercial jingle? Or just a hoax? Despite countless hours of analysis, the song remains unidentified. It becomes the crown jewel of the lost wave genre, a term coined for obscure, unidentified tracks that evoke a sense of nostalgia and mystery. Fast forward to April 28th, 2024. After 3 years of speculation, Reddit users OneTruth5867 and South Pole Ball made a breakthrough. They traced the song to a 1986 adult film titled Angels of Passion. The track, now revealed to be called Ulterior Motives, was composed by Christopher St. Booth and Philip Adrian Booth, twin brothers who had no idea that their song had become an internet legend. Recorded in 1985 in the Booth brothers' home studio in Encino, California, Ulterior Motives was a synth pop track infused with themes of betrayal and hidden agendas. The brothers had provided music for various projects, including adult films, to make ends meet. Ulterior Motives was one such contribution, fading into obscurity until its unexpected resurgence decades later. Following the song's rediscovery, the Booth brothers embraced their newfound fame. They re-recorded Ulterior Motives and released it on June 23, 2024, as part of an album titled Ulterior Motives, The Lost Album. The album featured other 1980s-era recordings unearthed during the search of the original song's masters. Despite the song's identification, questions remain. The original master tapes are still missing, and the circumstances of the song's initial obscurity continue to intrigue. Ulterior Motives serves as a testament to the internet's power to resurrect forgotten art and the enduring allure of the unknown. So, what is it about lost media that haunts us? It's more than just missing tapes, more than erased files or corrupted footage. It's the feeling that something was taken, that there are stories we were never meant to hear, images we weren't supposed to see, and yet we keep digging, searching, obsessing. Why? Because some part of us believes that if we can just find it, if we can drag it out of the shadows and into the light, we'll understand something deeper about the past, about ourselves, about what we're afraid to remember. But be warned, some things are lost for a reason. Some doors, once open, don't close again. And some media doesn't just stay buried. It waits, waiting for someone curious enough to look. And maybe that someone is you.